This is a story all about how I thought I was abducted by aliens, but it turned out to be a dissociative disorder. Hi, hello, and welcome back. Or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Heather. This is Miss Finn. And this is the story of the time I thought I was being abducted by aliens, but it turned out to be an undiagnosed dissociative disorder. For those of you who are new, I was diagnosed with a dissociative disorder about 4 years ago. I've had it my entire life, but didn't know it until 4 years ago. One of the most common questions I get about it is something to the effect of, how long have you known? Or, how could you have not known for so long if you've had it your entire life? Which is valid. The short answer is because with DID, and even sometimes OSDD, you're not supposed to know you have it. The whole purpose of these disorders is to essentially keep you from being aware of some things that have happened so that you can go about your life normally. So as long as that system is working, you shouldn't even know you have it. It is very common to not be diagnosed with it until later on in life, typically your early 30s. And there's a number of reasons for that, which I'm not going to go into in this video. But although the answer is no, I did not know that I have a dissociative disorder until my 30s. Were there signs? Oh yeah, for years. I just had no idea that that's what was going on with me. And as strange as it may sound, I was very accustomed to the fact that I had experiences that I knew weren't normal and that other people didn't experience. However, I do believe that if there was more awareness and firsthand accounts from people who have dissociative disorders, that I probably would have found them and recognized the signs in myself and gotten the help that I needed a lot sooner. I didn't even know what dissociative disorders were until my early 30s. Actually, that's not true, but we'll get into that. But first, let's go back to 2009, when I started to experience one of the telltale signs of a dissociative disorder. But because I didn't know about dissociative disorders, I thought I was being abducted by aliens. Yeah. I can laugh about it now. The year 2009. I was away at college and, like many women, was raped within my first few months of being there. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into it. I just have to share that detail because it was the catalyst for the rest of what would transpire. I didn't do anything about it. I just wanted to go on as though nothing had happened, which was something I was very good at. About a month or two later, I had returned early from Thanksgiving break with a few of my friends, and we were just hanging out at one of their apartments, which just so happened to be the one who is roommates with the guy who raped me. I didn't think I was going to run into him because, again, we had come home early and he was still gone, so I thought I was in the clear. Until he walked through the door about an hour after we got home. I don't remember exactly what happened after that. I know that I left pretty soon after he came home. But anyway, I walked back to my apartment, and it was the middle of the night, but I lived pretty close and I wasn't intoxicated or anything. And this was Pullman, which at that time Pullman was safe. Apparently not now, but at that time it was. I made it home just fine. And when I got home, I always had the same routine. I would immediately lock the door. I had one of those security door jammer things that you put under the doorknob. take off my shoes and then go and open Internet Explorer on my laptop because I was stealing my neighbor's Wi-Fi. So it was really slow and took forever to load. And then I would go about my business, like change my clothes, use the bathroom, go to the kitchen to make some food, etc. On this particular night, I was hungry. So I went to the kitchen and put a burrito in the microwave. Now, this is a crucial detail because the heating instructions for the burrito were to put it in the microwave for 1.5 minutes and then flip it and cook it for another minute. However, the next thing I remember is waking up the next morning. But it wasn't like a normal waking up. It was more like if you wake up on the weekend and don't want to wake up, so you immediately try to go back to sleep. But as I lay there, I became increasingly aware of this really loud music that was playing from somewhere. And the louder it got, the more I woke up and realized that music's coming from my apartment. My first thought was, oh my God. Oh, hi. Sorry, had to take a break to pet the pug. So anyway, my first thought was, oh my God, my neighbors must hate me. Like, this is loud. So I started to get up, and that's when I became aware of my body. And I realized that I was fully clothed with my shoes on and laying on top of my bed. All things that I never did. So that was odd, but my main focus was shutting the music off, which, by the way, it was All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues by Senses Fail on repeat at full volume. So I got up and went to the computer and shut the music off. And that's when I started to kind of take everything in. I could see that my internet browser was still on the homepage, and I checked the history, hadn't been using it. And then that's when I saw that the door jammer wasn't under the doorknob anymore. So I went over to the door and put it back under the doorknob and took my shoes off and was just trying to piece together in my mind, like, what the fuck I did in the past 6 or so hours. But there was nothing. It was completely blank. And remember, I was completely sober that night. So it wasn't like I passed out drunk or anything. A little while later, I went to the kitchen to start making myself some breakfast, and that's when I discovered the burrito in the microwave, which had clearly not finished cooking, which told me that I had blacked out within that first 1.5 minutes of putting the burrito in the microwave. And to this day, I have no clue what I did. The fact that I had my shoes on and the door jammer wasn't under the doorknob anymore led me to believe that I had went somewhere. But as for where I went, what I did, or how long I was gone, no clue. If this had happened to me today, I would have recognized it as a symptom of a dissociative disorder. But at that time, I had never even heard of dissociative disorders before. So, in the absence of any logical kind of explanation, I thought maybe I was abducted by aliens? The movie The Fourth Kind had just come out.
Do you believe in abduction theories?
You don't mean alien abductions, do you?
So I don't know if maybe that's partially why I went to the alien explanation. I can laugh at it now, but at the time, It was really terrifying. I just chalked it up to being another one of those things that I experience, but that I know aren't normal and that other people don't experience.
Man, I got all the flavor bitches say I'm delicious. I'ma have all you motherfuckers laying in ditches.
I'd hoped it was just a one-time occurrence, but then it happened again about a month later. This time it was New Year's Eve and I was in Seattle, again with a bunch of friends. And we had got to the party kind of late, so I had only had like 2 glasses of champagne before we started to walk down to see the fireworks. I remember cramming into the elevator with everyone and making it outside, and then boom, 8 hours later, like that. And I was in a completely different city, an hour and a half away, 0 recollection of how I got there or what happened that night. But this time, I had been with other people. So I knew I hadn't been abducted by aliens, and my friend was able to tell me all the things that I did that night that I have 0 recollection of. And again, I want to clarify, I was not blacked out drunk or drugged. I'd experienced both of those things before, and even with being blacked out drunk, I would still recollect some things and have some sense of the passage of time. These blackouts were completely different. It was like going from being here in one moment to immediately somewhere else 6 to 8 hours later and 0 recollection of what happened in between. Oh, let me help you out. To this day, I do not remember what happened or what ultimately came of everything. But I did find out about a decade later. Fast forward to December 2018. I'm at my doctor's office looking to get back on antidepressants. I was really struggling with my mental health following a sexual assault from the year prior. And I had just made an appointment to see a therapist who specializes in dissociative disorders. An important thing about that, I had just discovered dissociative disorders like a week prior to this appointment. I had been trying to figure out what was going on with me and was reading all kinds of things. And then one day, I just so happened to come across the Dissociative Experiences Scale, which is a screening tool for dissociative disorders. I will never forget that moment of reading through the DES and realizing it was describing all of these things that I thought were paranormal or that I thought no one else experienced and that no one else would ever understand. And they were all right there.
I felt seen. I felt heard.
So that's what led me to making an appointment with a therapist who specializes in dissociative disorders to see if that's what was going on with me. I wasn't positive that that's what was going on with me, but for the first time in my life, it sure seemed like I was on the right track. But still, I hadn't been diagnosed with anything, and part of me thought that if I did in fact have a dissociative disorder, wouldn't I have been diagnosed with one by now? By that point, I had seen countless mental health professionals and been diagnosed with all kinds of things, which fit some of my symptoms, but never all of them, and also never touched on the really weird shit that I was experiencing. And as far as I could recall, none of them had ever mentioned the possibility of me having a dissociative disorder. But anyway, there I was in my doctor's office, And we were going through all of my notes dating back to the years that I was in college to try and see all of the different antidepressants that I'd already tried. And that's when I saw it. There was an entry from early 2010 saying that I had come in because I'd been experiencing blackouts and missing time following a sexual assault, and that we had discussed at some length the possibility of me having a dissociative disorder.
We have just lost cabin pressure.
I had zero recollection of this. And I thought I had just discovered dissociative disorders. But apparently, my doctor and I had discussed it at some length a decade earlier. To clarify, the reason why my doctor never brought up dissociative disorders or why we had never talked about it was because there was a gap in my time at that clinic. So I started going there in 2009 and saw one doctor, the one who I would go on to discuss at some length the possibility of me having a dissociative disorder. But a couple years after that, I got married to an active duty service member. So I switched insurance. I'd moved, a few towns away and had only just come back to this clinic like a year prior to this appointment. And when I came back, my former doctor was no longer accepting patients, so I was seeing this new guy. So that's why he had to go back and look at my notes to see okay, what all do we got going on back here? Because he hadn't actually been my doctor for the past decade. Hopefully that makes sense. And my doctor recommended that I follow up with a therapist in Pullman. And it was only after this revelation that I began to vaguely recall seeing a therapist in Pullman. And the reason why was a dead giveaway that I have a dissociative disorder. But that's a story for another day. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions and if you want me to continue doing these dissociative disorder stories. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for me, please leave them in the comments and I will respond to them. Say goodbye, Finn. Let's get a belly roll before we go. You gonna belly roll? Nope. I guess she just wants to sleep. Okay, bye.